us know, Evita.
I'm trying to find do it.
Hello, everyone. We are just doing a test right now. If you are able to see us, would you comment on the chat box? Let us know that you can hear us okay and that you can see us. We'll get started shortly. Hello, if you are able to see us and hear us, if you can post a little comment on the chat box so we know that you're able to hear us okay. And we'll get started shortly. Can you hear us okay, Evita?
Yeah.
You sure? Check the audio, please.
I'm trying to. I should have my earbuds in.
All right. Thanks, Jessica. Hello, Georgia. Laura, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to wait one more minute before we get started to give everyone a chance to join us. In the meantime, if you have someone that you think would benefit from this presentation, please tag them in the comments, or you can also share this Facebook Live on your newsfeed so that your friends and family can also benefit from it. Hello, Lee. Thanks for watching. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Thanks so much for making time during your Saturday to join us on this presentation on holistic health during a pandemic. My name is Michelle Medellin. And on behalf of the Richardson Seventh-day Adventist Church, we want to welcome you. And again, thank you for joining us. We hope that this presentation is a blessing to you and yours. With us, we have Dr. Marlene Rosana, and we're going to go ahead and get to know her a little bit more shortly. I do want to mention that we're going to have a Q&A at the end of the presentation where you will be able to ask Ms. Dr. Rosana anything that has to do with how to stay healthy during a pandemic. Also want to mention that our next presentation is going to be on July 25th. It's going to be on nutrition during a pandemic, and we are going to have Evita Tizino, who is a vegan chef, as the guest speaker for that one. So please share that Facebook Live as well with your friends and family. So again, if you feel that somebody within your circle would benefit from this presentation, tag them on the comment section or share it on your newsfeed. So we have Dr. Marlene Rosana, who is a family nurse practitioner and a functional medicine health consultant and essential oil coach. Dr. Rosana is the founder and CEO of New Path Health Institute, a health and wellness company that focuses on functional and integrative medicine. She gets to the root cause of her clients' issues while targeting gut issues, toxins, doing detox, and hormones while restoring balance in the body. Her passion about achieving optimal health is not only for adults, but also for children. Dr. Rosana, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me here, Michelle. It's a great pleasure. And it's a great pleasure for me to be able to come and just talk about what I've learned about, different things that God has revealed, has given us in ways that we can improve our health and remain healthy, which are more important, especially during this time that we are going through.
Definitely.
But yes, I currently work as a nurse practitioner here in Texas and at the Tyson Foods company plant in Hometown City here in Texas. And pretty much what we are doing is focusing on testing employees there that show signs of COVID. And of course we provide education and talk about isolation, quarantine, and things that they need to do during that time as well.
Wow. So you're currently working on testing patients for COVID,
Yes.
or people for COVID. Now, you were also in New York recently in April when New York was the epicenter of the coronavirus, cases.
Yes.
That was not too long ago, and I can only imagine that must have been a very scary place to be in April. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, it was quite scary. I pretty much, it took me a long time to decide whether I wanted to go there or not. Actually, on Facebook, I saw one of the nurses that I used to work with that was over there, and I sent her a message and asked her, "How did you get to go over there?" And she told me. So when the opportunity presented itself, I was really excited about going, but at the same time, I was also very scared. So I remember the day I had to make up my mind, I kept on going back and forth. I kept on coming up with points why I should go and points why I should stay. But in the end, I just prayed and I felt impressed that I just needed to go and help. And that's what I did.
Wow. Yes. I mean, I'm sure they were very thankful, and I mean that was very courageous of you to go there during that time. Now, tell us a little bit more how it was when you got there to New York. Describe the chaotic scene and what you experienced.
Well, when we got there, I went there with two other nurse practitioners. And when we got there, pretty much thank God we were in the same hotel. So, when you get in an environment like that, you always feel some kind of comfort that, at least I know two people here. So, but pretty much we had to stay there and we were divided in different hospitals and we had to wait for our assignments. So I was assigned to North Central Bronx, and that was one of the areas that had a lot of patients. So I was working on a med surg floor with a team of medical residents and attendings. And I remember the very first day I was there, I remember the doctor specifically telling me that I needed to make sure that I didn't spend too much time in the patient's rooms. I needed to have my questions down, go in the room, and get those questions answered and get out of the room pretty much. So that was because they didn't know how the virus worked at that time, and the goal was to limit the time that we spend with the patients, which was pretty sad, but at the same time, they wanted to make sure that we were safe. And of course, we had to wear our N95. On top of that, I was wearing a surgical mask. And on top of that, I had to put a face shield. So, people were doubling gloves, tripling gloves, just because we were so nervous. And I remember, Michelle, that very first day, I didn't even take my mask off for 12 hours. I didn't drink any water because I was so nervous about, everything that I heard. And I was so nervous because I was like, Lord, I do not want to get this virus.
Yes, and I mean that was during the time where there was a shortage of the
Yes.
mask and all of the medical equipment gear.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was. I remember one of the conditions and one of the things that made it a little bit easier for me to decide to go was just because they told us that we were going to have N95 provided every day. And if we didn't have that, we had the right to say no, we wouldn't work unless we had an N95 mask provided every single day.
Wow. Which leads me to the to my next question. What was the kind of support you received and the process that you guys went through?
It was so amazing because as people found out that I was in New York and that I was helping, I had nurses contacting me, asking me what I needed, what they could do for me. When I got there, there was no hand sanitizers. I had a nurse, Kaylee, that I worked with here, and she went ahead and sent me some hand sanitizers and supplies. She worked with her family, with her aunt and uncle, and they sent me probably about a good maybe 30 masks that I was able, in the hotel, we had a room where people were just sending supplies. People sent food, masks, face shields, everything you could think about. people were just donating. It was just amazing. I had, at one point we ran out of hair caps, and I mentioned it on Facebook, and there was another lady that contacted me and said, "Hey, do you need some of them? I make them." And she sent me probably 10, 12 of them, and she asked me, "Do you need more? Let me know." Donnie, that goes to church over here, she sent me some masks too. And so pretty much what I did, and that's what everybody was doing, was that when we received them, we went ahead and we'll go in the room where all the supplies were, and we will also leave them for other people to get them. So that was so amazing because we saw people, people coming together to help, which was great.
Wow. Very good. In the meantime, we want to do just a quick check. Can you guys hear us okay? Somebody mentioned that they were not able to hear us. Just make sure your volume is up. Let me turn ours up. Yep, ours is all the way up. So if you can hear us, if you can type on the comment box that you are able to hear us, or maybe a thumbs up, please, so we know that we are good. Okay, so it seems just one person has problems, so hopefully the rest of you can hear us okay. All right, so you said you were in, was it Brooklyn or
Bronx,
the Bronx?
North Central Bronx.
Okay,
yes.
So would you tell us a little bit more about the variety of patients that you were assisting?
I would say that mainly it was Hispanics, number one, and then African Americans, Black people, number two, and then whites. A lot of, we had some younger people. I remember taking care of a gentleman that was 21 years old, that was the youngest, but it went up to 65 years old, 85. They were 65 and the 50s, in the 50s, but the youngest that I took care of was 21 years old.
So from 20 all the way to 65 plus.
Yes.
A variety of ethnicities.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Now, I think by now we all have either someone in our family that has contracted, COVID, a friend of ours, or maybe we personally have gone through that, or we know someone or one of our coworkers, which is why we thought that this was very crucial for us to do this, so we can not only help others, but we can also stay healthy. So what were some of the sobering moments that you saw when you were there helping patients in New York?
There were a lot of people, pretty much out of everybody that I took care of and that were on the floor. Per se, I didn't have anybody coming to the floor that was coming straight from the emergency room. Most of them were coming from ICU. So they had been on a ventilator, they had been intubated, and they came to us. And a lot of them, made it. There were a lot of codes that were called. I remember I was there for about 7 to 8 weeks, and especially those first 4 weeks, there was a code going on at least maybe every 15 minutes. I remember we were in the rooms and you hear code going on, everybody rushes there, starts working.
Let me ask you, so for the people that are not in the healthcare profession, you said code?
Yes.
Is that like a blue code?
Yes, pretty much.
So what does a blue code mean for those who do not know?
So pretty much, I might walk in a patient's room and find a person that is not responsive. And I have to call in a code.
Okay.
People, and it can be an RRT, which stands for Rapid Response Team. And when they come in there, then if they feel like, this person doesn't have any pulse, so we need to start doing chest compressions, and we move more to the code. So we had a lot of those, and it happened so many times that we were in one room taking care of a patient, and still on our floor there was no the code called in. So people had to divide. Some had to go see what was going on, and things like that. So it was going on a lot.
So you guys were getting these codes from everywhere.
Yes.
So these response teams could come and assist the patients, but there were these codes happening everywhere.
And just keep in mind that in any hospital, pretty much on each floor, you have because we use what we call crash cards. And on the crash card, you have medications like epinephrine. You have things to intubate. You have, pretty much medications to assist with the code. Normal saline bags for hydration, different bags and things like that. Pretty much items that will help you in helping the patient.
Sure.
And on each unit, you have only one of those. So imagine how chaotic it can be when go into one room.
Right.
Usually we pull the cart right in front of the door, but then you have another code going on, still on that same floor, and you have just this one crash cart that is already being used with this patient. So it was pretty hectic.
Yes.
It was pretty hectic.
Yeah, to say the least. Yes, and I think we all heard of, medical supplies being very, spread thin. There wasn't enough of them very early
Yes.
on. So you got to experience that firsthand.
Yes.
Wow. Now, tell us a little bit more about what were some of the things that helped patients improve, and tell us about, their families, their reactions, how they themselves helped the patients without being able to be in the room with them.
Okay. When I got there, we pretty much had a protocol that we had to follow, and that included hydrochloroquine and antibiotics, different antibiotics based on if the patient had allergies and things like that. But those were the basic things that we were doing as far as blood work. And we know with COVID that deals a lot with inflammation. So we had to check inflammatory markers, what we call inflammatory markers, such as CRP, such as ferritin. And those are inflammatory markers that if they are elevated when you get blood work done, then we know that you have some kind of inflammation going on. So we had to monitor those. And what we were doing, because the families were not able to come and visit, every day we would call the family members and let them know how their family member is doing. Unfortunately, because with COVID, the situation changes so rapidly, we couldn't tell the family member that, he's improving or, he's doing great, because you can say that and few minutes later, the person has a codes. So we had to be really cautious about it, and we had to let the family member know that at this moment, this is what is going on with the person. Also, based on the diet that they were on, the family members could bring items, and they will leave it with the security guy downstairs, and they will make sure the patient gets it. They also could call. For those that had cell phones, they could call using their cell phones. And I remember specifically one of the patients that I took care of. And with this, and we know movement is so important, but I remember this patient in particular, when I was going in the room, I was always encouraging him, you need to sit up and just get in the chair, even if it's just for 5-10 minutes, gonna be very helpful for you. But he didn't want to do that. So it got to the point where when I called the family member, the son or the daughter, to let them know how he was doing, I had to say, hey, you know what, this is what he's doing. He's not doing this. And could you call him and talk to him about that? And they were very willing to do that. They were always, because they knew that this was something so serious.
Yes.
So they would always call and talk to them, encourage based on what we were telling them. So it was really good.
Got it. So I know for a fact, and there's articles out there that talks about how, the person who has the virus, when they're really sick, like they lose hope. I mean, it's just something that, I don't know, it affects your, I don't know, your peace of mind, but that the mental distress is just out of this world. What did you, what kind of things that you noticed with the patients that you treated? Were they also, very low at times, and then they were feeling better? And how did they improve?
Yes, they were very, this particular patient I took care of, his cell phone had died, so he wasn't able to, he didn't bring a charger. When you're stressed coming to the hospital, he didn't think about bringing his charger, and his phone died. And he had a son, and he was very attached to his son. And every day when I'll go to see him, he will mention his son and how he loves him so much and he wants to talk to him and he's not able to. And he asked me for a charger, and I felt so bad because the phone that I had was different from the phone he had. So I had my charger with me, but I couldn't give it to him. He couldn't use it. In the room he was sharing with another COVID patient, had a phone too. He had a charger, but that was the wrong charger as well. So it was very, we prayed together. We tried to arrange for him to have FaceTime with his son, but he was telling me, it's just different because FaceTime, they arrange it with one of the nurses and you have a specific time when they bring a tablet and where you can have that FaceTime for maybe 30 minutes or so with your family member, but you cannot call them all the time, anytime, because someone else at one point is needing that tablet to do FaceTime as well. So it was very, he was feeling pretty bad, but I remember we prayed about it. I was off one day and I came back the next day and he was so excited because one of the workers at the hospital actually had the same phone he was using and had a charger and actually gave him the charger, which was really nice. So he was so excited about that. But yes.
Now, so to wrap up this section, what are some practical ways that we can help those that are in the hospitals, whether it's a neighbor, a family member, a coworker? I hear obviously prayers, right? Praying for them, making sure that they have their phone and maybe even a charger,
Yes.
right? So that they can communicate with their families. What else would you say are some practical things that we can do for those that are in the hospitals?
Some of them, a lot of them don't like the food from the hospital. And I've seen over there, we had family members bring food. The main thing we were asking is to respect the type of diet they are supposed to be on. But a lot of family members were bringing food. A lot of family members were bringing items that their loved one needed. So that's very important because it makes you also, we usually say there is no such place like home. And when you're in the hospital and you're in this type of situation and this type of environment, you have to understand that even though they are healthcare workers that are taking care of the COVID patients, for one, they cannot spend too much time in the room with them. Number two, they have to protect themselves. So a lot of times these patients are isolated. A lot of times the rooms are kept shut because you think about it, if the patient is in the room and is coughing all over the place, you think about all the particles that are hanging in the air, and those can hang there for a long time, for hours. So the rooms, the doors are usually kept shut. So that's a lot of isolation. So I think it's really talking to the person, and because everybody is individual, everybody is different. My need might not be someone else's need. So I think it's just really talking to the person and finding out what is it that I can do to help you that will make you feel better, because they need to feel better. When you're there, you think you're in the hospital, you're having trouble breathing, all you think about is a lot of negative things. You think this might be the end for you, and so what can I do to bring you that little hope that you need, and it's just, I think that's pretty much what it boils down to.
Got it. So you actually touched on the diet that patients should be on. What is the recommended diet that you guys were suggesting?
Well, and this now you have to understand, and that's where I was really torn, because with a conventional way of doing things, someone that has, let's say, even some diabetes, for example, and is in the hospital, even if they have COVID, the diet is not an anti-inflammatory diet.
Okay.
Something, for example, like dairy, milk, cheese is inflammatory to the body. So, but in the conventional world, those are things that if you see even a regular dietitian, those are things they will recommend you take. So in the hospital, I was kind of torn between what I know is right and what the conventional way of doing things is. So now, if it's something that I know, someone that I know, and that is not necessarily in the hospital, or even someone that is in the hospital, if it's a loved one, that you have, and the person is maybe struggling with issues such as diabetes and high blood pressure. Things that I recommend are things like nuts and seeds, staying away from dairy, taking in more vegetables, taking anti-inflammatory food like turmeric, like even citrusy things like lemon, lime, oranges, things like that, things that will help reduce your inflammation. But unfortunately, in the hospital, things are looked upon a little bit differently.
Right. Yeah. Totally understand that. Well, very good. So we are gonna have the next 5 minutes available for the viewers to ask Dr. Marlene Rosana some questions, whether it's about what she's currently doing, testing people for COVID, or what she did in New York and what she saw. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead and type it into the chat box, and she'll go ahead and respond right now. So we'll leave the next 5 minutes available for Q&A, specifically on her experience or what she saw in New York before we move on to the next section. So if you have any questions, you can ask them in the chat box. And thanks, Birmingham. Thanks so much for your comments. Okay, well, I don't think we have any questions. So if we don't have any questions, we'll move on to the next section. So, 8 laws of health. Would you tell us a little bit more about what the 8 laws of health are?
All right, sure. And the 8 laws of health, I like to think about these as 8 natural doctors, because these are things that we can do, ourselves, and a lot of times right in our home, without really having to step out. But so yes, and I believe that, for all of us to achieve wellness and health, there has to be balance in every single aspect of those. Negligence in one of them can actually lead to issues, to sickness. The first one that I like to talk about, and that I believe is really the foundation, as far as for me, for example, is trust in God.
Yes, very important.
I believe that this is the foundation of everything. And I like to tie it with stress, because when we experience true trust in God, stress, and let me say chronic stress, is really not there. Having stress here and there is very important, but stress that is chronic, that is there every day, all day long, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 30 days, and all the time, it's not good. It becomes a problem. There has been actually researches that have been done that show that stress is actually greatly contributing to chronic conditions that can lead to high blood pressure, high cholesterol, that can actually lead to diabetes, raising your blood sugar. A lot of people don't know it, but actually, when we are stressed, we release a hormone called cortisol.
Yes.
And when that hormone is released all the time, continually, that actually leads to your blood sugar going up. So someone can actually have a great diet, but just because they are having a lot of stress in their lives, their blood sugar is not going to be well controlled. And a lot of times we'll look at the diet and think, wow, your diet is great, but what's going on? But it's because you are dealing with a lot of stress. So stress is such a big thing. So it's very important for us.
I was going to ask,
Yes.
what are some practical ways
Yes.
that we can reduce stress? Because it sounds so easy, but what are really some, easy ways to do that?
So we are going to focus just on what is going on during this pandemic. For example, you think about when you wake up in the morning, and you look at, let's say, the TV, and you see what's going on, and they are talking about COVID, giving statistics and things like that. That brings a little bit of stress. So what I'll recommend is not spending your whole day, reading about it and talking about it, because what you're doing is just raising your stress hormone. You need to stay informed. That's very true, but don't dwell on it. what you should do also is do other things that bring you joy. Laughter is very good, it's very good medicine. I actually recommend that every morning when you wake up, stand in front of the mirror, look at yourself, and laugh and smile. And what you do, you start actually to release those happy hormones that boost your immune system. When the evening comes, turn off the TV. I would say probably a good even 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed. Turn the TV off. Turn those heavy lights that you have in your house. Turn off the computer and just try to relax. Listen to some nice music that you enjoy, or maybe just read a book. Do something that will take your mind off of what you did during the day. One thing that I like to encourage is practice journaling. It's some of us and many of us, especially now, we go through so much stress that doing journaling allow you to write down those feelings that you are going through. So actually, you are kind of releasing them when you write them down, and you leave them in that book just to free yourself and have some peace. So journaling is very good way to reduce our stress. Prayer is a great way to reduce our stress also.
Yes, yes. So the 8 laws of health, what are they?
All right, so the 8 laws of health include, I like the acronym God's plan.
Okay.
So G stands for godly trust.
Okay.
O, open air. D is daily exercise. S is sunshine. P is, let me think again.
So I know them a little different,
Okay.
but it's the same thing.
Yes.
I know them as new start, which
Yes.
is nutrition, exercise, water, temperance, air, rest, and
Yes.
trust in God.
Yes. Yes.
But I've heard that one too, and they're the
Yes.
same thing,
Yes,
just
they're the
different
same
words.
thing. Yes.
So again, for everyone that is not familiar with the 8 laws of health, they are nutrition, exercise, water, temperance, air, rest, and the most important one, trust in God.
Yes.
And we are actually going to be having one of these for each one of those. So as I mentioned very early on in the beginning of this session, the next one is on July 25th, and it's going to be on nutrition. And we're going to have Evita Tizano, who is a vegan chef, talk about nutrition during a pandemic. So make sure you join us for that one too. So we actually have a couple of questions, if you can, if you
Yes,
want to
sure.
go ahead and answer these. So we have a question: how great of an impact is NAC twice daily on COVID?
Okay, NAC is very important because NAC is what helps us get glutathione. Glutathione is the greatest antioxidant that our body needs to be able to reduce oxidative stress. Oxidative stress, when you think about an apple, for example, if you cut the apple in half, you will notice after maybe an hour or so, the apple starts, where it was cut, it starts changing color, and that's damage that's happened. And that's the same thing with our body. Oxidative stress is brought on by refined foods and things that are inflammatory to us. So glutathione, what it does, it helps heal, it helps restore our cells. So it's so important. So and in that sense, it also helps decrease inflammation. And we know that COVID has a lot to do with inflammation. So actually NAC is very important. When I was in New York, that's one of the supplements that I was taking twice a day.
Now, what is NAC? I've never heard of NAC.
Yes, it's a when you look at it, when NAC has been used even in the hospital actually, when someone comes and has Tylenol toxicity, that's one of the medications. Well, it's not a medication, but it's a supplement that is given to reverse that. So they sell it in capsule forms, and people just get it. What it helps for, it's helping to convert to get glutathione, which is the antioxidant that we really need in our body.
Got it. So do you recommend that we take supplements?
All right. So supplements, and what I would just put a disclaimer is just to let everybody know with every supplement that you intend on taking, very important that you consult with your primary care provider first, because everybody's condition is different.
Correct.
So I cannot decide that for you. But supplements, when you look at the way the soil is now, getting food from the soil is very important. I will never say that supplements should replace food. Food should always be the number one. We should always make sure that we get a variety of fruits and vegetables, nuts, seed, always variety. Let's not stick to just one specific. But supplements can help because nowadays the soil has been hampered with so much, has been depleted of so many minerals and vitamins that the apple that we are eating today, even though it can look big, we think that it has tons of nutrients. But when you compare that apple nutritionally compared to an apple that was that came out 50 years ago, 100 years ago, the nutritional value is going to be very much different.
Yeah.
So in that regard, supplements to me are acceptable in light of that. But again, consult with your doctor to make sure, because supplements interact with one another. Supplements, something, for example, like vitamin D, which is very important. If I start taking vitamin D, it depletes my magnesium. So it's very important for me to make sure that I have enough magnesium in my body before I start taking vitamin D, because sometimes people take vitamin D and they start having issues such as joint aches and things like that. But it's because they are starting to be low in magnesium, because and muscle aches, and because magnesium is a muscle relaxant.
Got it. Wow. I did not know that. I got to up my magnesium game. Okay. Another question. If hospitalization is not required for COVID positive patient, what is recommended for recovery at home in regards to meds and vitamins?
All right. So basic things that are usually that we've recommended are things like vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, and yes, vitamin C, D, zinc. Some do vitamin A,
Okay.
and then fish oil, anything that is anti-inflammatory, quercetin, fish oil or omega-3. Those
Okay.
are very much anti-inflammatory. NAC is another one.
Okay.
But yes, those these kind of things. Sometimes for those that are starting to have breathing issues, what I've seen used is something as far as hydrogen, food grade hydrogen peroxide has been used by a lot of doctors actually that are treating people at home to help with the breathing issues. And it's been proven to be effective. A lot of people that are starting to have breathing issues have used that, and within the first treatment, they start feeling improvement in their breathing.
Is that
yes,
something that they can get over the counter?
yes, they can get it over the counter. You have to make sure of the quality, but they can get it over the counter and mix it with some normal saline. But again, I recommend contacting
Definitely.
someone that is experienced with that, and they
Yes.
will tell you exactly how to mix them.
Yes.
People have actually used budesonide. Budesonide is a steroid inhaler. In the hospital, when I was in New York, we were actually not doing any breathing treatments. Just because in the room, again, with the breathing treatment, when it starts bubbling and all that, and the patient is breathing, they believe that it goes in the air, and so it was really not recommended. They were doing inhalers as opposed to nebulizer treatments. So that's something that is not used in the hospital. I don't know if it has changed yet. But at home, if someone is at home, that's something that doctors have recommended as far as nebulizers, and the insurance covers for those.
Got it. So before we move on to the next question, the vitamins that are recommended, obviously they need to check with their primary doctor.
Yes.
Would be NAC.
NAC,
Right? NAC. Vitamin D. You said vitamin
C, A,
A, vitamin C, zinc,
yes,
and possibly even magnesium,
yes.
because vitamin D depletes your magnesium.
Mhm.
So those are some vitamins that you can take at home if you are recovering from COVID. Another question: having pain in my joints starting like a month ago. I wake up with stiff hands. I don't eat dairy. What can I do?
Well, what they found out based on some research that have been done, they discovered that gluten is actually one, protein that is very damaging to us and that can lead to joint pain. Joint pain, the joint pain can be caused by many things, but one of the things that has been associated with it is gluten. So what you can do actually is some kind of elimination diet where you take gluten out of your diet for even a week, 2 weeks, even a month, and see if your joint pain is improving. And if it's not improving, then it's pretty much to look at something else. Because what I do, especially when I work with clients, we do what we call food sensitivity test. And food sensitivity test is a test that you do at home, and it points you to foods that you are sensitive to. For example, something like lemon, very harmless, very good for us, but some people can actually have sensitivities to lemon. And when you have sensitivities to lemon, that can lead to stomach upset, that can lead to joint issues, skin issues, different things. But typically, when someone is having joint pain, things that can be recommended is elimination diet, dairy, gluten, those are the two big ones. So some people, they have to eliminate grains until they heal their stomach, the lining of their GI tract. And then they can start reintroducing those slowly to make sure they are not having any reaction.
Got it. Very good. Okay, one more question and then we'll move on. With so much division about their use, can you provide some insight into the effectiveness of wearing masks to prevent the spread?
Okay, so with the mask, surgical mask, when you think about it, with and one of the 8 natural laws of health is open air. And with open air, when we breathe in oxygen. And oxygen is actually one of the things that are needed by our immune system to destroy toxins. But unfortunately, when we wear a mask, we are inhaling, we breathe out CO2, carbon dioxide, which is very toxic to us. And when we breathe in, it's supposed to be oxygen. But when you are wearing a mask, pretty much you are exhaling carbon dioxide, but you are taking it back in again, which can be very damaging to the body. When I was in New York, I wore, we were wearing the mask. We were working almost every day, 7 days a week. And I was wearing the mask every day for about at least 12 hours, sometimes 14 hours, because we were leaving the hotel at 5:30. Imagine from 5:30 you have the mask on and you don't come back to the hotel until 8 o'clock. And you sleep probably by the time you get to the hotel, you want to relax a little bit, do something, 10 o'clock, be in bed, be back up by 5, get ready. So we had the mask off for probably a good, maybe 8 hours at the most. And so imagine during those 14 hours or so, rebreathing your carbon dioxide. Some things happen when you do that. You are not only increasing your carbon dioxide in your body when really it should be out of your body, not in. And what does that do? That decreases your immune system. So for that reason, I had to do all these things that I was doing to make sure my immune system stayed really strong. There were some times when I had to pull the mask out off of my mouth and my nose so I could just take some fresh air because I felt like I couldn't breathe. Yeah. And when I started to talk to the other practitioners, they were experiencing the same thing. What actually started happening to me, I started having palpitations and I started having trouble sleeping at night. And I had a pulse oximeter, and the pulse oximeter is what we use even in the hospital to check your oxygen.
Your finger, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And when I would check that, my oxygen was good, but my heart rate was in the 120s, 130s. Very scary. So, in relation to the mask, what I would recommend is really limiting, the use of it in the sense that don't go out if you don't have to go out. Yes, when we go to the store, for maybe an hour, 2 hours, but I see people in the car wearing the mask. Is it really necessary for you to have it in the car? I don't think so. So my advice is to limit and just assess the situation. Do I need to have it on at this point? God gave us wisdom to decide. So that's what I would say. Actually, yesterday I was reading somewhere, I read a short article where he was talking about the mask, and it was saying that the coronavirus, the size of it is about 0.12 and the mask is between zero. I think it's about 0.2, which actually the pores on the mask, which means actually that the mask is not as effective as we think. But then again, I need to research more on that, and find more, articles that are talking about that. But in the meantime, that's what I would recommend is that, if you don't have to wear the mask, don't wear it. But if you go in a place, avoid crowded places. That's number one, and don't go to, I mean, someone mentioned also, when you go to a restaurant, do you have to go to a restaurant to eat? Because you think about it, you go to the restaurant, you have your mask on, you come and eat, you take the mask off, and at the end you put the mask back on. But is it, I feel like, what's really the difference then? Because when you take the mask off, you are still exposing yourself.
Right.
And so is it necessary? So I feel like people should really assess the situation they are in and be like, okay, do I need to, just look at each situation individually.
Right. Yep. And I mean, you guys were wearing your mask for 14 hours.
Yes, that's a long time.
Yeah, we may go to the store and, like you said,
Yes.
for 1 or 2 hours.
Yes.
Maybe once a day. Or
Yes.
something
And
like that.
and definitely in light of that, make sure when you have to do groceries, do it once a week at the most,
Yes. Yep.
or maybe order them and just go to
Yes.
pick them up. A lot of people are doing that. So look at ways that you can do to change and just do things a little bit safer. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, when I go buy groceries, I like to go first thing in the morning
Yes.
as soon as they open, because usually they disinfected the carts.
That's me.
And there's less, exposure to
Yes,
people. So
yes.
that's what I like to do. Or like
That's
you said,
me.
do the curbside pickup. Yep.
Yes,
Well,
definitely.
Very good. So now we want to talk about some practical ways that you can do daily to make sure you have a healthy immune system. So I've been doing this tea that I saw on
Yes.
your Facebook page, and I really like it. It has turmeric,
Yes.
ginger, and garlic.
Yes.
So would you tell us a little bit more how to do that? And just FYI, we're going to be posting this recipe on the Richardson 7-Day Adventist Facebook page, so you guys can do it at home. But why don't you tell us how to do it and then explain the benefits of?
All right. So for that tea, actually, it's my mom who started doing that. All I told her was that we need to make sure that we get turmeric, ginger, garlic, yes, every day if we can, to help, because those have properties. They are anti-inflammatory and they help to boost the immune system.
Yes.
And so we started saying, hey, let's make some tea. Initially, we started actually just doing lemon water. And then I started telling her, hey, actually, the zest of the lemon, the outer part, even the white part between the zest and the lemon itself, has so much more nutrients. And she was like, what, really? So I'm like, yes. So we went from, initially, we were just boiling it and letting all the juice come out and drinking the tea from that. But then eventually she started boiling it for 15 minutes and just blending everything
Yes.
to get even more benefits.
Yes.
So that's something that is very potent.
Yes.
So I would say just a shot of it twice a day is good.
Yep.
When I was in New York, when I left for New York, I took one of those. She put it in a mason jar for me. So I took it, and every day before going to the hospital, I was taking just a little bit, a little sip. When I came back in the evening, little sip. I did it every single day. When I ran out, she made some more and sent them to me, and I was still doing it, and we still have it at home.
Wow.
So, but yes, it's a great way to boost the immune system because it has, ginger is great for inflammation. Turmeric is great for inflammation.
Yes.
Garlic is great. All those are things that we don't always necessarily put in our food when we cook, but it's just a great way of getting all of them at once.
So garlic, if you guys don't know this, garlic is a natural antibiotic.
Yes.
Right? So imagine boiling turmeric, ginger, and garlic cloves. I like to have my water very, very low and let it, sit there like for 15 minutes.
Yes.
And
That's
then, I pour it and I, put some lemon on it whenever I'm ready to drink it. And then I just store it in the fridge, and then I'm just taking out a cup every day,
Yes.
like you said, twice a day. So
Yes.
that is one practical way that you can make sure that you have, a healthy immune system. So that is one way, drinking that ginger turmeric tea. Another thing is hydrotherapy. What can you tell us about hydrotherapy?
Hydrotherapy is actually very great. It helps to it. There are some things that you can do to actually boost your immune system. One of them is when you take a shower. You start with a hot shower, and what the hot shower does is actually open up your pores. It dilates your pores, and what that does is that it detoxifies your body. It removes toxins that are trapped, and that's what you want, because toxins are very detrimental to our bodies. They lead to inflammation also. So you want to do that. So hot shower opens up your pores, help to detoxify your body, and you end your shower cold. So you can alternate 1 minute of hot, 30 seconds of cold. You can do 1 minute again of hot and increase it to 1 minute of cold. But definitely ending your shower cold.
Yes.
That's what will give your immune system like a kick, and you want that. Another something else that people do is sauna. So people actually have saunas in their homes. Not everybody can afford to do that, but what saunas do, they're actually very good because they detoxify the body as well. So a lot of people try to do that at least once to twice a week. There are a lot of sauna places that have opened all over, the United States. You can always in your area try to find one, and people do it maybe just once a week. And what that does to you, it boosts your immune system. And also, for those who are having breathing issues, also what you can do, even with something like mint. And by the way, mint, you don't have to buy it in the store. You can grow mint. Some of these herbs, you can grow them yourselves at home. You take a little pot and you put some mint. You just need one mint to come. And I tell you, if you do just one, it grows and grows and grows and doesn't stop. So you can just cut a little bit of that. If you have your cup of tea, maybe you put the mint in there and you just put your head in there, and it's hot, and you cover your head with a towel and you just breathe it. That just opens up your lungs, help to drain a lot of things, mucus and things like that. It's very good for the lungs.
Yeah, that is what I was going to talk about next, steam inhalations.
Yes.
But before I talk about that, I do want to mention that if you want to do the hydrotherapy, and if you have any underlying conditions, like diabetes, you probably want to check with your primary care physician first.
Yes.
But usually if you don't have any underlying conditions, you can do this daily. There's so many benefits of hydrotherapy. It actually also gives you like a boost of energy because of the cold water. So definitely do your research on that, and make sure that you end with cold water. And again, we're going to be posting, the information on how to on our Facebook page after this session. So steam inhalations. So I've done it before. I basically get, water boiling, and then I put a towel over it, and there's like almost no air coming in. And you are sweating. You're really, really sweating. I mean, it's also good like for a facial.
Yes.
What I did is I put a little bit of essential oil. I think I used lavender, but maybe you can put mint, right? So how often can we do the steam inhalations?
Even twice a day is okay. It doesn't hurt. The main thing with something like mint, because even drinking mint tea also kind of has the same effect because it opens up. But don't forget, mint also works with blood pressure. So you just have to be careful also with all these things that we are, talking about, definitely. But it's something that you can do once, twice a day based on, how your breathing is. And a lot of people, when they have head colds and things like that, and they feel like they're having a hard time breathing, that's something that is really good to do.
Now, obviously, we want to be proactive about doing these things. So can we do the steam inhalations even though we're not sick?
Really, you don't have to.
Okay.
You don't have to. One thing that you can do as far as with your lungs, if you are not sick, and you can do it now, and what it actually does, it helps with your lungs, it helps strengthen your lungs, it helps you relax too and reduce your stress as well, is some deep breathing exercises. And pretty much what you do, think about the 4-7-8 rule. 4-7-8. And what you do, you deep breathe in, and the goal is to expand your lungs. You count up to 4, and you hold your breath for 7 seconds. And then you breathe out slowly for 8 seconds. So 4 seconds in, 7 seconds hold, 8 seconds out. And especially for those who have lung issues. Initially, it might be hard to do it, even for someone with no lung issues, because a lot of times we don't do these deep breathing exercises often. So it takes our body to be trained to do that. But what you can do is just start slowly and try. But if you're not getting to that 7 seconds hold, just keep practicing. Just keep practicing. But you can do it, repeat it even 5 times. Try to do it twice a day. And what that does, it really helps to expand your lungs. It helps to improve your lung function because we want that. Because with those
Yes.
with COVID, they're having a hard time breathing. They cannot take those deep breaths.
Yes.
It's more shallow breathing. Shallow breathing is not what we want. We want to be able to take those deep breaths, expand our lungs, let the air come in, especially if we are wearing the mask as often.
Yes.
You want to be, you don't have to, you can be in your house, you can just open the window or step out of your home and just take those deep breaths. Do them 2, 3 times a day, especially if you are staying home all day. That's a great way to get some fresh air also.
478.
Four,
Remember
seven,
that.
eight.
Very good. So we have 2 minutes before we go into our Q&A. Really quickly, can you talk about foods to avoid?
Foods to avoid, I would say definitely dairy is a big one because, again, even someone who has asthma or COPD or colds, it's dairy is very mucousy. It gives inflammation. It's full of antibiotics and things like that. So I would say definitely to stay away from dairy. Um, Other things that you can avoid, dairy is a big
Sugars.
one. Sugar is another great one.
And everything has
I
sugar.
know.
Everything. So if we're adding sugar to our tea, our coffee, and then you're consuming more sugar and maybe, I don't know, cakes or whatever.
Yes,
I mean,
definitely, because sugar, again, sugar is one of those that depress our immune system. Because what happens is that viruses, bacteria, they feed on sugar. Even cancer cells, they thrive on sugar, cancer cells. So one of the best ways to boost your immune system is cutting out sugar. There are other things that you can replace sugar with. You have stevia. A lot of people don't like stevia because of the aftertaste, but it's actually
yes.
great. That's the best one to use. If you can use that, there is monk fruit. They have monk fruit sugar now that you can use. But going more with natural things like dates is much better. Honey, use it in moderation because a lot of people think honey is natural, it's the best. I can use that, but use moderation because honey is not actually a low glycemic item; it's high glycemic. So you want to stay away from that too.
Yeah. I actually transitioned. I used, I eat oats
Mm-hmm.
or steel cut oats very often. And I used to put honey. And we did this 21-day fast here, a couple of Januaries ago. So now I just add fruit, and the fruit is my sugar. So that's how I
Yes.
transitioned it. That now I really don't use sugar for anything. That whenever I do use sugar in a recipe, it's sometimes too sweet for me.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes a process. Like you have to retrain your palate, but you can do it, with baby steps.
Yes, it's something that we have to be very aware of. And I sometimes I ask people, when you think about just white sugar and you think about a bagel, between the two, which one do you think is worse? A lot of people will say sugar is worse, but actually the bagel
Bagel
is
because
worse.
of the bread.
Yes. That and the combination of
Sugar.
sugar is just it's just bad. It's yes. So just things like that to think about.
So stay away from sugars and dairy. And I've heard dairy causes phlegm.
Yes.
So you don't want phlegm, during a pandemic. That's
Mm-hmm.
going to be in your lungs. So if
Yes.
you can stay away from phlegm, I mean, nowadays we have so many options. We have almond milk, oat milk, soy
That's
milk,
right.
so, something to consider.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we have the next 30 minutes for Q&A, and we have several questions already. So if you want to ask Dr. Marlene Rosana something about, how to stay healthy or what she experienced when she was in New York, go ahead and ask your question through the chat, and we'll try to get to it. So let's see. We have a question. Is physical stress as bad as mental stress?
Yes, it is. Because what happens is that our body actually doesn't know the difference between physical, mental stress or physiological stress. Physiological stress is actually the type of stress that we have in our body, so we don't necessarily know We might have a gut infection going on. We are not going to know really that we have a gut infection, but that causes stress to the body, that causes inflammation. So our body registers stress as stress, no matter what type of
Okay.
stress it is. Now, don't get me wrong, acute stress is okay. We want acute stress because, for example, if a dog comes in this room, we want our adrenaline to kick in, we want our cortisol
Fight
to
or
go up.
fight.
Yes, we want that. We want that because that's what is going to help us react in a proper way. So that is okay, but when it's just chronic ongoing, that's when it becomes a problem.
Got it. Yes, totally makes sense. Okay, Linda asked a question about any suggestions on diet in self isolation.
As far as self isolation and diet, again, what I would say to focus on is making sure that your foods that you are eating, you can have citrusy fruits, things like, um,
Oranges.
oranges, lemon, limes, because those have what vitamin C, that very important. Things doing more fruits and vegetables, because I like before when I used to eat, I used to eat and not thinking about it. And I'm so thankful that I got to the point where I look at food actually as medicine. And that helped me be very careful about the type of food that I eat. So when you start switching your thinking in terms of what foods can I give myself to nourish my cells, because don't forget our cells, the reason why we are eating is to nourish ourselves so that we can thrive. Our cells need energy, they need antioxidants, they need these vitamins, these minerals to do the job that they are designed to do. The cells in the lungs are different from the cells, in the GI tract or in the liver. Each cell has a specific function, but each cell needs to be nourished. And when we eat things that are, for example, sugary, like pastry, cakes, things like that, those have no nutritional value. When we eat, for example, white rice, I usually call it empty calories. It's loaded with calories, but doesn't really have any nutritional value. So that doesn't do really anything for you. I'm not saying never to eat rice, but just be careful and be careful about the type of rice that you're picking. So for me, what I do a lot of fruits, vegetables, but the vegetables, I don't do just any. All vegetables are good, but the vegetables that I like to make sure I consume every week, things like garlic, even though I do the drink and take it, I also put garlic in my food, onions, leeks, very important for the immune system. Things like broccoli sprouts, very good in fighting cancer cells, very good for the immune system. Broccoli has, I mean, based on a study they did, it has over 500 compounds that are beneficial to us. So when someone asked, for example, earlier about supplements, the supplements give you just specific things. If I take, for example, a magnesium supplement, it's going to give me just magnesium. But if I take a sweet potato, I'm going to have magnesium, I will have potassium, I will have so many other things that are not going to be in that supplement. Supplements are for targeted use, but doing just the fruits and the vegetables is more broad. You're exposed to so many things. So what I would recommend is that try fruits and vegetables you've never tried before and see how they taste like and try to include them in your diet. But things like cabbage, very good, whether it's red, yellow cabbage, very good, whether it's broccoli, asparagus, cauliflowers, kales, spinach, all those are great for us. So include those vegetables in your diet. You cannot go wrong with including them in your diet.
Yes, definitely. All right, another question. Let's see. How do I make time for self care, for example, nap, exercise, shower, etc., when I spend a lot of time on my laptop for work and school? Any recommended apps or how to discipline myself?
Um, there is an app. Hold on, I have to check. Calm, I believe the app is called Calm. It's very soothing, and yes, it's called Calm, CALM. and it's very soothing. When I was in New York, actually, that's one of the apps that my husband told me start using it. So I had downloaded it on my phone, and you can use it in the morning or in the evening, and you can set a timer, and it's just, I mean, it will just calm you. There is a lady that comes and talks to you and does the deep breathing exercises that I talked about, and read some things to you, and that really calmed me. That really helped me sleep much better. But you know what? I would say with self care, you have to make it a priority.
Yes.
You have to find the time for self care. I know we are so busy, and I'm talking about these things because even for me, it's a struggle. But it's our body so much needs self care. So sometimes, it's good we pick one day a week where we do things just for ourselves, but every day it's important to have little things that we do that will help us take care of ourselves. Something like taking a bath with Epsom salt and lavender, very relaxing. If you're someone that is so busy and you know that, going to bed, it's going to be hard, I'm going to have a hard time, because you want to be able to switch your focus from everything that you're taking care of and kind of calm down. Because you know what? When we wake up in the morning, our cortisol level within 30 minutes of us waking up shoots up. That's the highest it's going to be for the day. But as the day goes on, the cortisol starts dropping. And what happens is that the melatonin starts going up. So you want your melatonin to be at the highest level in the evening and your cortisol to be at the lowest. And that's what helps you sleep. And you really want that. Actually, based on studies that they've done, they believe that one of the reasons why kids don't get affected as much with COVID is because their melatonin level is a lot higher than adults. Because kids, they will sleep just like that and not have any problems. They can sleep for a long time, but it's for us, we still have all these ideas in our mind. It's hard for us to switch those thoughts off and relax. So I would say try the app Calm and try to take an Epsom salt bath, listen to some music, relax yourself, and Epsom salt is not only will it help you to detoxify your body, but also it will help you to calm your mind. With the lavender, it eases you into a more relaxed mode, which helps you have a more restful sleep. And really, that's what you want.
Yeah. And I would say, being more consistent with putting yourself first. Because if you have a family
Yes.
and you're also working, you have to put yourself first and be intentional about making time for yourself, whether that's going on a morning walk for 30 minutes
Yes.
or, spending time in the Word for the first 30 minutes of
Yes.
your day or taking a nap, But if you don't do that, then everybody else around you suffers, right? Your kids, your husband, whatnot. So just being more intentional, and if it helps you, maybe even setting a calendar and
Yes.
checking off the times that you
Yes.
did set some time apart for yourself.
That's
Very
true.
good. Let's see. We have another question. Should we take K2 if we take D3?
Yes, you should. K2 helps when you think things that help really. K2 helps with the absorption of D3. So they actually have supplements now that they sell vitamin D with K2. When you think about it, D3, K2, magnesium, and calcium, they kind of work together not only for the bones. D3 and K2, especially D3, is also very important for the immune system. It boosts the immune system, but it also helps with the absorption of calcium into the bones. So yes, definitely K2. What we found out is that, for a lot of us, when we take a lot of women, I've seen a lot of women that take high doses of calcium. But what we have to remember is that it's hard for calcium to get in the bones. But when we do the calcium, we have to remember that calcium can also go and hide in soft tissues. It can hide in your arteries, it can hide in your kidneys, and everywhere else beside where we intend it to be. So a lot of times people that take calcium, they take also MK2, which helps to shuttle that calcium into the bones. So definitely vitamin D3 with K2, it really helps it to do what it's supposed to do. Yes.
Great. Very good. Another question is, what are some natural ways to deal with menopause symptoms? Flashes, weight gain, sleeplessness.
All right. So natural ways, again, it comes to self-care. I would say it starts with self-care. Finding the time, with women, a lot of times when women have trouble sleeping, it can be because of hormones. A lot of times women suffer with a lot of hormonal imbalance. So I would say if your doctor can get you to do a test, one of the tests that I use is called Dutch. Dutch actually looks at your hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, to see if they are balanced. Because with us, as we age, we get into menopause, there is specific level where your hormones should be. But if you don't have any of these tests done, I would say to start with self-care. Self-care is very important, to be relaxed and be in a good mood. But then again, some women take maca powder. There are a lot of herbs that help with hormones, but without knowing specifically your case and what you have going on, it's hard for me to recommend because each herb works in a specific way. So I don't want you to start taking maca powder because maybe the issue is more with maybe your testosterone than anything else. So that's something to be very cautious about. But a lot of times when women have hot flashes, one of the things that I found that helps is flaxseed. So I would say 2 tablespoons of flaxseed. If you are making maybe a smoothie every day, put tablespoons of flaxseed in it. If you buy flaxseed, definitely I would recommend to buy organic as opposed to the regular flaxseed. But if you get the powder one, make sure you keep it in the refrigerator because once you open the bag and it's been grounded, oxidative stress, and it makes it not as available for you as it should. So usually it's better to buy the grains of flaxseed and organic and just grind them, based on how much you need. But definitely try 2 tablespoons a day and see if it helps with the hot flashes. The good thing with flaxseed is that it gives good omegas. It's great. It has some protein in it, good for fiber and fat. So, but yes,
And it's tasteless.
yes, it is.
All right. This is a really good question because we talk about, us as adults, but we don't really keep in mind that kids are also being exposed to COVID. So the question is there an all-in-one immune building supplement that you recommend for kids?
All right. So for my kids, I haven't seen an all-in-one, but what I started giving them is some probiotics, and I've given them Juice Plus. Juice Plus is it's supplements. You can get them in gummy forms or you can get them in capsule forms. But with Juice Plus, it has over 30 foods between broccoli and apples, and it has about over 30 vegetables and fruits in there. But it's like juicing. But what they do, they juice it and they dry it. So it's the powder form that they put in the supplements. So it's actually like juicing. So, but if you have, any other brand, but Juice Plus is one that I use, and it has all those because, when you think about those vitamins, minerals, it's more of what the kids need because they don't always, even though I make sure, for example, my kids, I make sure that they have vegetables and fruits every day. It's so much, and especially with everything going on now, you want to boost the immune system a little bit, and the best way to do it is through food. So that's what I give them on top of the food that they are eating, and I make sure they have some kind of probiotic.
Can kids also take that ginger turmeric
Yes,
tea?
I make mine take it, and what we do, we try to dilute it with some kind of juice or something that is a little bit sweeter so that they don't feel so much because it's kind of spicy, so they don't feel it as much. Of course, if you are taking maybe a little shot of it, they won't eat that much because they are kids. Probably not even half of it, but just very little with just more of a juice or something that is a little bit sweet so that they don't complain so much.
Okay, very good. Also, there was a comment that Abide is another good meditation
Abide.
app that incorporates scripture. So whoever asked the question about, any apps out there that would help her with self-care, check out Abide. Another question that we have is I believe you pronounce it kefir. Is kefir a safe form of dairy? Can you explain what kefir is? Because I've never heard of it.
Kefir, it's fermented. It's like fermented dairy, but it has a lot of probiotics in it. Kefir is great provided that you know that you don't have any allergies or sensitivities to dairy. So it's a great form of, it's a great way to take some kind of probiotic. Yes.
Okay. And how often?
You can even take it every day, a
Okay.
little bit, just like sauerkraut.
Okay.
Sauerkraut, I don't know if you know about it. It's like pretty
Yes.
much cabbage,
Yes.
fermented cabbage.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need ton of it, but just like a spoon of it every day. And
Okay.
based on how you feel, you can start increasing it a little bit more. But once a day, twice a day, it's okay.
Very good. Awesome. And then someone said aromatherapy salt baths would be good.
Yes, that's great. Pretty much aromatherapy salt baths. It's made with Epsom salt. You can have Epsom salt. You can have some people make it with sugar actually. But yes, and it with essential oils also. So it's very great. You have a hot bath. You throw one or two in there, and you take a bath with that, and it's good. If you don't have those, you can just go to Walmart or on Amazon and just buy some Epsom salt. They have Epsom salt with lavender at Walmart or just plain if you have essential oils. But I would say if you're going to take a bath with Epsom salt, don't put the salt in the hot water and put the essential oil on it. What you want to do is take the Epsom salt and put the drops of essential oil in the salt and let it kind of get into it, mix it a little bit, and then pour everything so that your bath doesn't become oily and
So mix it with the salt
Yes.
and then pour the mixture in the water.
yes, yes.
Very good. Great. Any other last minute questions that you guys have before we end the session?
And having fun. Yes, Elsa.
Yes. Elsa said self care, exercising, relaxing, and having fun have to be in our daily schedule.
Yes.
Definitely, definitely. Love yourself and take care of yourself. Yes, I would say take care of yourself 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Well, very good. Any last minute thoughts that you can share on how to stay healthy, or maybe suggestions on, how, because I don't know about you, but I leave like shoes by the door. So what do you recommend about shoes in the house? How to take care of, or how to wash groceries? What do you do?
I like when I get up in the morning every morning and I take a walk, or even if I go to the store, when I come in the house, we go through the garage, but we leave our shoes there.
Okay.
With the groceries, when we come again, we take them through the garage, empty them over there. I usually have a disinfecting wipe and I kind of wipe what I can.
Okay.
Is it possible to be 100% firm?
Right.
It's just, but you do the best that you can, and that's what I recommend. As far as again with mask, same thing. Like I said, when I've seen actually people when they remove the mask, they bring it down like that, and that's not the best way to do it. Always you want to remove it from the ear and just remove it like that instead of pulling it down, because if there's anything on the mask, then touching it like that, you just contaminated your hands. But hand sanitizer in the car is great, because even if you do that and you forget, you can just quickly get and use the hand sanitizer. But definitely washing your hands is the best thing you can do, because the hand sanitizer, the more you use it, it's very drying to the skin. And over time, especially for us that work in the hospital, you damage the protective layer that you have on your hands over time. So, but yes, if you can wash your hands 100 times, do hand washing as opposed to hand sanitizer.
For 20 seconds.
Yes, that's right.
What about elderberry? What are your thoughts on elderberry?
Elderberry is good if you don't have COVID, because there are some things, there are some compounds in elderberry that they found out is making patients that have COVID worse. So a lot of supplements, things like vitamin A, they recommend if you do vitamin A, do it before, when you don't have COVID. So what they found out is that some supplements affect people differently anyways, but some supplements are very good as preventive as opposed to taking it while during the treatment. So things like elderberry, based on the research that I've done, they recommend, yes, you can take it before. It's very good, great for the immune system. But if you do have COVID, to stay away from it.
Okay. All right. So I did not know that. So I'm going to tell a friend to stay
Yes.
away from elderberry. Um, now, can you tell us about when you take vitamin D pills, do you have to go to the actual, sun and activate the vitamin D within your body? Is that a myth or is that
You
true?
know, I haven't heard of that, but
Oh,
again, that doesn't mean that it's not true.
mm-hmm.
I know that for vitamin, and when we go to the store, we see vitamin D2 and we see vitamin D3.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the D2 is not the active form, so you want to do the D3 because a lot of people have a hard time converting that, and then maybe going in the sun will really help. But you
Right.
know, just like me, that the best way to get vitamin D is to be outside in the sun,
Yes.
because when you do that, you don't have to worry about taking cake. You know, you
Oh,
don't have to
okay.
worry about that. But yes, being in it's already your body just naturally produces it. You know, so you don't have to worry about taking anything else to make it more potent or absorbed in a specific way. So definitely spending some time in the sun. I mean, it boosts your immune system and it gives you the vitamin D that you need. You only need to spend 15 minutes. For people that are fair skin, you need about 15 minutes a day. That's it. And for
Wow.
those who are dark skin, you need at least 20 minutes to 30 minutes. That's it. So if you can afford doing that every day, that can give you up to 10,000 units of vitamin D, which is more than enough to protect you, you know, and boost your immune system in a great way.
Wow. Just 15 to 20 minutes.
That's all
Wow.
you need.
Now, does it matter if it's early in the morning, midday, late evening?
They recommend, and you hear different recommendations, but they say between the hours and of 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. is a good time to go.
Okay.
But they said usually during the winter months because you know before that and after it gets so. But during the summer they recommend before 10 o'clock and after 3 p.m. because then the sun is starting to go down a little bit.
So before
So
10 a.m.,
mhm,
before and after 3 p.m.
and then you know when you decide to go in the sun, the vitamin D is more released on the larger surfaces. So if you go outside with your jeans and long sleeves, most likely you're not going to get a lot of vitamin D. But if you have short sleeves and a short, then you are getting more. So
So
those
your
are
skin has to be
exposed.
exposed.
Yes.
I mean, it makes sense because our skin is the largest pore, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's how it intakes the
Yes.
vitamin D.
Yes. Yes.
Very good.
And but yes, that's pretty much what I would say in regard to that. You want to make sure that you go exposed, and you know, sunscreen. Unfortunately, you know, we have to think about skin cancer, but sunscreen affects the absorption of that vitamin D. It will take a lot longer. So if it's someone that can afford doing it for 15, 20 minutes, that's great. Even up to 10 minutes is better than nothing.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yep. Very good. And we have another question. What about oil diffusers with essential oils? Do they help with breathing besides relaxing with nice aromas?
Oh yes, they definitely help. In my house, we I have a diffuser in every room, and I love, especially with the breathing, I love essential oils like peppermint, eucalyptus because again they open up everything.
Okay.
With lemon, you know, it boosts. You want it to, you know, when you think about diffusing, you are inhaling it, so it goes in through your nair and down here. So that's what you want. But they are great. Yes, they help, you know, based on which oils you use. Lavender will help you relax more and sleep better at night if you diffuse it. Some people even just put some drops on their pillowcase, and that's enough if they don't have a diffuser. What I do with my lotion, I put few drops on my lotion and use it on my body. There are different blends. Like before coming today, I use essential oils from doTERRA, and I have a blend that's called Aspire. And I have another one that is called One. And when I have to do like a presentation like that, I like using it because it works. It helps calm me down a great way. So I didn't believe it before, but the first time I used it, I was like, wow, it just I feel the difference. So, but yes, essential oils do work. You just have to make sure you get great quality ones because they can, if you get those that have you know, added okay
Ingredients or,
ingredients,
yeah.
they will affect you. They
Sure.
won't work as well. They won't be as potent, And yes, you want to make sure of the quality of the oil you're using.
Great. Well, very good. We are 3 minutes away from ending the session. We want to thank you for joining us, Dr. Rosana. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so
It's been
much.
very, very, helpful. I've learned a lot, and I hope that you guys that are watching this have learned some new things as well. Again, if you feel like someone would benefit from this, please share this either through Messenger or through your news feed. We just want people to really know what they can do to stay healthy during this pandemic. Again, we probably already know someone or have someone in our families that have been affected by COVID. So we really just want people to know how to stay healthy. And last but not least, I want to again remind you that we're going to have one of these for each of the 8 laws of health, which are nutrition, exercise, sunlight, temperance,
And
air, water, and the most important one, trust in God. Our
yes.
next one is going to be July 25th, 2 Saturdays from now at 4 p.m. with Evita Tizino, who is a vegan chef. She's going to be talking about more healthy or immune building foods to eat and what to avoid. So make sure you join us for that one too. And we hope you have a great rest of your day. And thank you again for joining us.